Hello and welcome to our Creative Infographics session. Today we're going to be learning about what an infographic is and two methods of creating infographics. The first way we're going to learn is using Microsoft Excel to create some charts and tables, and that's pretty easy. So hopefully you'll catch on pretty quickly for that. And then the second tool we're going to look at is called Piktochart, and it's a free online web tool that can create really creative and visually appealing infographics. It is more complicated than Excel though, but I hope you give it a try and play around with it, and I'll be showing you how it works a little later. And finally, we'll wrap up with some tips and best practices for creating your infographics. So first of all, what is an infographic? Simply put, an infographic is a visual representation of data. And hopefully your data is telling a story. It's a way to see an image of data, not have to read any words, and still understand the message that the data is conveying. So some really simple examples of infographics are charts and tables, and there are other types as well, which we'll look more at when we get to Piktochart. So first we're going to look at Excel and how you can create a chart or a table pretty easily. So I have some data here in my Excel sheet. Since my research topic was how academic libraries contribute to the retention of minority students, you can see my table here is about races, and then I have some totals for how many freshmen are that particular race and how many total students are part of that race as well. So let's say you just want one of these columns of data. We're going to highlight our races here and our one column of data, but it's two total columns being highlighted here. Go to Insert in the menu and click on Recommended Charts. If you are using an older version of Microsoft Office, then you will not have this button. But all of the computers at Central Penn are updated to Microsoft Office 2013, so you could use any of the library computers or any of the computers in ATech as well to have all of these features available to you. So I'm going to click on Recommended Charts, and I can see what charts Excel thinks will best fit my data. It knows that I am looking at my races, which is over here on the left, and so it puts those on the y-axis here for me. And it knows I'm looking at numbers, so it has numbers down here on the x-axis. So this is a clustered bar graph. It's not actually clustered right now because you can see that each segment is just one bar. They're not clustered together currently, but you will see what that looks like in just a bit. Another alternative is this clustered column graph. It's just like the bar graph, except instead of displaying the data horizontally, it's displaying it vertically. I could also use a pie chart, which is recommending to me. A pie chart can be really good if you're not comparing too many things. If you're comparing a lot though, then I don't recommend that you use a pie chart. This is probably right on the border of maybe being too much. I can see a tiny sliver here of my pie chart that's just barely visible. So I would maybe consider not using a pie chart. If I don't like the ones it recommends to me, I can go to All Charts and pick my own type of chart that I would like to use. So I could use a line chart. There are other options here as well. But since I have 3 total columns here, 2 columns with numbers in it, I want to make a chart using all the data. So I simply highlight all of my data here, go to Insert, Recommended Charts, and I have a few more charts that are being recommended to me now. So the first one is the clustered bar graph again. And here you can see that, yes, these are actually clustered. The orange and the blue bars are right next to each other. So the orange are the total number of students, and the blue bar are the freshmen, the number of freshman students that are that particular race. So in this graph, I can see that we're comparing the number of freshmen of a particular race to the total students of that same race. And I can easily look through the different races and see a general idea of the number. The next chart it's recommending to me is a stacked bar. Now you want to be really careful if you're using this kind of chart, and let me show you why. So here again we have the blue bar representing the number of freshmen and the orange bar representing the total number of students. Now if I am looking at the row for Caucasian students, I see just over 500 freshmen, and then it looks like almost up to 3,000 total students. But that's actually not correct, because here Excel is saying you have freshmen plus total students equals up to 3,000, and the numbers don't work that way. For this graph to work, I would have to say freshmen plus other students, and I would need a different number from what I currently have. And then it would equal my total students. But instead it thinks I'm adding freshmen plus total students, and I shouldn't be doing that because freshmen are part of total students. So Excel is also recommending to me a clustered column, which is just the same as a clustered bar graph, just looking at the data vertically instead of horizontally. And then I have a stacked column as well, which is the same as a stacked bar. And then I can also look at this 100% stacked bar, which shows me the figures in percentages. And again, be careful with the stacked charts. You want to make sure that you're not misrepresenting your data, which here, my data is not being accurately portrayed by those kinds of graphs. All right, so let me show you, using a clustered bar graph, some of the features that Excel offers for customizing your charts, graphs, tables. All right, so I have just inserted my graph right here, and I can just click and drag and move this wherever I want on the screen. I can also make it bigger by dragging a corner. So here is my chart title, which I can change simply by clicking on it. I can change my chart title, and I will call this Different Races of Students. And then click away, and then I can also click and drag my title if I want it to be somewhere else on my graph. So now my chart has a title. I can use this plus button over here to add additional chart elements. So let me open that up. Now I notice that neither of my axes have titles. Maybe I should give them some titles. So I can select Axis Titles, and here I see a place where I can edit and put my axis title. So I will call this Number of Students, and I will call the y-axis Races. We could also add data labels by check marking the box here. So you can see we just had some numbers pop up. Now you do want to be careful when you're adding elements that it doesn't start to overwhelm your chart. So here I'm seeing a lot of numbers and it is starting to get a bit distracting. So I would maybe want to consider not including the data labels. You can also tell the chart where you want those data labels to appear. So I could put them in the center of the bars. So you can see they're difficult to read here because it's black text on blue or orange coloring. And I could change the color of this by double clicking on it, and then I have a menu here. I could make this appear white instead so that it's easier to read. I could also move my data labels to inside the end of the bar, or to inside the base of the bar, which you notice with the really short ones, those are difficult to read, the numbers, because they're so short. Or outside the end. This is where I would recommend, if you do use data labels, put them outside the end of the bar because that'll be the easiest place to read it. But now my white has disappeared, so I need to change the color of this again. I can also use this paintbrush button here to customize the style and colors of my chart. So we're using the default, which is right here, but I could click through these different options and watch as my chart changes its appearance. All right, so I like this one. I'm going to go with this for now. I can also change the colors of my bars, and I could pick one of these different color schemes as well. All right, so you've created your chart and now you're ready to print it out so that you can glue it to your poster board. If you want to paste this into PowerPoint, simply right-click on your chart and click Copy and then paste it into your presentation. The easiest way that I'm recommending to you to do that is to copy your chart and paste it into Microsoft Word. Now notice that my chart is horizontal. I want to change my page layout for Microsoft Word to be landscape instead of portrait. And then I'm also going to change my margins as well so that they're narrow and not half an inch all the way around. Okay, and I want my chart to be centered, so let me use the centering button from the Home tab and then paste in my chart. And now I can drag a corner to make it bigger. And now I can print this out and then cut the white edges away and attach it to my poster board. Now I'm noticing that some of my words are appearing pretty small, and when I print it out, it will probably be difficult to read on the poster. So I can change the font sizes of my chart if I go back to Excel and I click on the text that I want to change, double click on it, and then I have my menu come up and I can make this, instead of being font size 9, which is really small, I could make this font size 20. And I can just go around and do that. I can also do that for the data labels. I can make them larger and change the color for them as well. So once I've adjusted all my fonts, here's what it could look like. It'll be much more easily readable from a distance once it's up on my poster. So the next tool we're going to talk about is Piktochart. And you simply, in your browser, go to piktochart.com. That's Piktochart.com. So once you're there, you have several different options of what you can create. You can create an infographic, a presentation, a poster, or a report. Now, I recommend that you create a poster because that's going to be easiest to print on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So you're going to want to choose poster. And then when you scroll down, you'll see free templates available. Like I said earlier, Piktochart is free, but you could upgrade to a premium account for a fee. I don't recommend that you do that. There are enough free options that you don't need to pay for anything. So stick with the free version. You can look through these free templates that they provide you with and see if anything catches your eye. And when you scroll down too far, you'll see the other templates that are available for the members that do pay a fee. So we're going to come back up here and I'm going to choose this one to demonstrate how to customize your Piktochart so that you can have a really cool infographic that will look really great on your poster. One reason I recommend that you pick a template is if you are unfamiliar with how Piktochart works, it's much easier to start with a template and modify it for for your own uses by editing the words, dragging the images around, than to create something from scratch when you're not even fully aware of all of the capabilities that Piktochart has. So start with a template. It will save you so much time and effort. And the more you get to know Piktochart, maybe you can start thinking about creating things from scratch if none of the templates work for you. All right, so we have our poster here that we can edit. The first thing you want to do is give it a title. That way it'll be saved as a title that you remember. So I'm going to call mine Demo Poster. And then I'll remember that this was the poster I created for this demonstration. The next thing you want to do is make sure it's set to print on an 8.5 by 11. You don't want to create something with other dimensions and then find out that you can't print it and you have to edit a lot of it. So if you go to File and then Page Setup, it should be set to the default 8.5 by 11, but it's good to double check that. And then if you do have to change it, make sure you save. All right, so looking at our template, any of these features on here are editable. So I can change the text here from minimalistic poster to whatever I want the text to be. So I just double click on it and then type in the text I would like. So I'll call this Demo Poster. I can also change the font by highlighting my text and then using the font buttons up here in the menu. So I could make it a different style and size. I can also center this using the Align button right in the top menu as well. I can click and drag anything that's already on the poster, so I can simply click and drag this line if I would like it to appear elsewhere. And notice that as I'm dragging, I have orange rulers appearing both on the left and the right. Those are showing me where this will best line up with the other items already on my poster. It will try to guess where I want to drop the line. Now, if I want to turn that off, I can with this button right here, Align with Other Objects. It's currently turned on. I'll turn it off right now. And now I can move it anywhere and it's not going to give me any suggestions. Now, if you want to add something to this poster, you want to use the menu over here on the left side of the screen. So it's already set on graphics and it's asking me what kind of graphic would I like to include on the poster. So let me show you. They have shapes and lines that I could add in. And I just click and drag whatever shape or line I would like to include. Now I can change this color as well using the color button up here at the top. So I could make my heart pink instead of black, which is a good thing. And then I could add in a line right here. And it defaults to a dashed line. I can change that with the line style button up at the top. I can make it solid if I would like. And then again, I can change the color of this too. I can make it bigger by clicking and dragging the corners. There are also icons in Piktochart. There are lots of free icons that you can look through and click and drag and bring into your poster. So let's add a cloud. We'll put it right here and then we'll change the color. And we'll resize it as well. So Piktochart is really easy to use because it uses lots of click and drag. I also can change this from general to a more specific category. For example, they have arrows. So if I'm creating an infographic that uses a process and I want to use arrows to show the process, I could look through here and see what style of arrow I'm looking for. So let me bring in this arrow. I can make it bigger, I can change the color. I can also rotate it by using the circle centered at the top of the arrow. I just click on it and then I drag the mouse and my arrow will rotate. Piktochart also has photos that are uploaded into it that you can use. So there are different categories here that you could use as well. And you simply click and drag and bring a photo into your poster. Finally, for the graphics part of the menu, you could pick a photo frame. There are lots of different frames here to give your photo a nice shape, a little embellishment. So you can pick a frame that you like, bring it down to your poster, you can resize it, and now to get a picture in here, you can drag a photo that you already have on your poster, and it will put it in the photo frame for you. You could also upload your own photo by using the Uploads button in the menu on the left. So you would simply browse your computer and select the photo that you want to use, and you could put that in a frame as well. Now, if I don't like the background of this poster, I can change it by using the background button here. So I could look through, what do I like? What do I think will work best for this poster? I can also add different types of text boxes. So some of the options are title, subtitle, and really that just will give you a certain type of font and size, which of course you can change. So I can just drag my text and then click on it to edit it. There are also some fun text frames here that you can look through and see if any of them work for your infographic. So we've seen the cool things that Piktochart can do, but we haven't really talked yet about adding a chart or a table to Piktochart, which is the main function of it. It's a really great way to display data. So if you have data that you would like to visually represent in a creative way, you want this Tools button over here on the left. And you can pick chart or map. Obviously a video will not work for a poster board. And so let's see what the charts look like. So when I click on charts, I have this area on the right that kind of looks like an Excel sheet. And it's showing me an example of some data here. The data will be the same for you if you create your own Piktochart account. So this data is showing me a preview of what this type of chart would look like with this kind of data. So we have a pyramid. We could change this to just a vertical bar graph, a triangle bar. So I'm getting a quick preview of what the different charts look like. One that I want to point out to you that Excel does not offer is this icon matrix. So this is a way of using color to show percentages. So apples are 17% of our data, and you can see the dark green is 17% of our visual representation here. So each item relates to a color, and you can see what the ratios look like. So this can be really effective if you're comparing just 2, 3, or 4 different things. The more items that you add in, the more confusing an icon matrix is going to get. So I recommend that you don't go above 4 different items that you're comparing here. But this can be a really cool way to display your data. Now I want to add in my own data here. This is not the actual data I want Piktochart to use, so I can get rid of this by clicking backspace. And then I need to put my own data in. You've got two options. You can either import your data from an Excel sheet. It'll just have you browse your computer, find the file, and it will automatically upload into this chart area. Or you can copy and paste from Excel. We'll highlight our data, copy it, and paste it right in here. I used Control V for paste there. So now my chart has changed. I also have fewer chart options over here on the left because this will not work for an icon matrix, and there are other chart types that my data will not work for because I'm showing two sets of data. So I could just look through the different types of charts here to see what I think will work best for my poster. Alright, so we're going to go with the vertical bar chart. We need to give our chart a title, so I'll call this Number of Students by Race. I also should give my x-axis and y-axis the title as well. So my x-axis are number of students, and my y-axis are the different races. So I can see I have my title is now in here as well as my axis titles too. You can click on the settings button to change a couple different things. If you want everything to be one color, you can select set color to all, or you can use the individual color setting. If you would like to stack your chart, you can do that and turn that on. That's similar to what we saw in Excel with stacking the column or the row. We'll turn it off because for my data, that's definitely really confusing. And then I could change where I want my title to appear and what all else I want to appear on the graph. So let's insert this. And let's bring it down. And I'm going to put this on a new sheet of paper. So I add a new sheet of paper to this poster by clicking this Add Block button. It's the plus sign. And now I can go back up here and simply drag it down. I'm noticing that my chart is really difficult to read on this background, so I need to change the background. Let's make it something much lighter and simple to view. Oh, that looks real nice. Now I can read all the words. And I can click and drag a corner to make this chart much bigger. Now, I do not have all the customization options that Excel provides with data labels and choosing all the colors that Excel has. So you do want to keep that in mind, but Piktochart does have some really good chart options for chart types. So let's put in a chart, an icon matrix chart. To do that, I will add another block. That way we'll start on a clean sheet. Go back to Tools and select Chart again. This time I'm only going to select one column of data, and we will paste that in. And here's what my icon matrix would look like for my data. Now, because I have so many different options here, I think it starts to get confusing. So let's just see what it looks like when we insert it into Piktochart. So here's what it looks like, but I don't really like the triangle shape for displaying my data. I can double click on the chart, go to Settings, and change this from pyramid to any of these other shapes. It makes sense for my data, since I'm talking about the number of students, that I would use a man or a woman icon. So you can see here my data has now changed to the icon of a man. I could even change this by selecting Customize and then choosing an icon from the icon library. And I could select any of these to be my icon in the icon matrix. So let's choose Education, and I'm going to choose this cute little owl. And now here is my new icon matrix. And then I'm going to update my chart. So here's what it looks like. Now this icon matrix only works if you have one row or one column of number data. And you can see here that we do only have one column of numbered data. All right, so for our whole Piktochart that we've been working on, we have our first sheet, which I showed you just clicking and dragging some objects. Our second sheet, which is a column graph. bar graph, and then our third sheet is our icon matrix. So if you want to see what this looks like before you print it out, you can select Preview and see this is what it will look like when it prints out. So once you're happy with the way this looks, you can download it with the download button right here at the top. I recommend that you use the medium file size because it's larger than the original. And then you have the option of downloading it as a PNG or a JPEG. And then just click download. If you're participating in the digital research exhibition and you're creating a presentation, then you can download these as PNGs or JPEGs, and they should be compatible with VoiceThread. You should be able to upload them separately into VoiceThread and then narrate them. Let me show you some examples of what other people have created using Piktochart. So here's a poster created by UNC. You can see that their data is telling a story here with the speedometers. We're pointing to 21% with this speedometer, 40% with this one, and 85% with this one. We also have some text, a list right here. With this infographic, you can see that the creator used a lot of the icons from the icon library in Piktochart. And then they used the wheels here to display their data too. With this one, we have an example of an icon matrix. So you can see they use the little man icon and they're showing their data with the bright blue. And they include additional statistics, icons, and text down below the icon matrix. In this poster, we have a bar graph right here on the right, as well as some text on the left, and we show in order a process here using the icons. So let's talk about a few tips and best practices for you as you create your infographics. The first is avoid including too much text. A lot of the time we like to rely on our words to communicate. Let your images do the communicating for your data. A really strong infographic will be lots of images and very few words. You want your visual aid to tell the story. Second, use color responsibly. Pick a color scheme that makes sense and stick with it. Don't use too many colors. The more colors you use, the more distracting your poster will be. Similarly, don't choose too many different font types. Make sure you limit yourself to just 2 or 3 different font types, because the more different fonts you include, the more distracting your poster will be to the viewer. And then also make sure that your infographic includes plenty of open space. It's not too overcrowded with images and text. You don't want it to take up the whole poster. Let there be room to breathe and just let there be empty space as well. That way your viewer will focus on the data and the infographic itself. If you have questions about creating infographics, in particular with Excel or Piktochart, contact the library. Or if you prefer to contact me specifically, you can find my information on our online guide, my phone number, and my email.